Your calendar is packed, your to-do list is endless, and another urgent task has just come in. Most people think the solution is either saying no or working longer hours. And they're wrong. Accepting more responsibility the right way actually makes everything easier. It sounds backwards, but stick with me because I'm going to show you how you handle increasing workloads without burning out or dropping quality. You'll learn why strategically accepting new work makes everything more manageable, how to reorganize in a way that actually reduces your stress, and why your capacity isn't as fixed as you think. By the end, you'll have a system for staying effective no matter what gets thrown your way. When a new responsibility lands on your desk, your instinctive reaction might be a little bit negative. I don't have time for this. Can't someone else handle it? And so on. And you're going about it wrong. Accept the work and take ownership with genuine enthusiasm. It has nothing to do with being a pushover, and if you're looking at it from that perspective, you've got the wrong attitude. You need to recognize that personal and professional growth never comes from maintaining a comfortable stability. In fact, new responsibilities often come your way precisely because you've shown the ability to adapt. Taking them on with confidence shows that you're ready for greater challenges and opportunities. Once you understand this, that initial negative reaction will be gone, and you'll start to realize that new challenges just become a part of your normal day-to-day. So you've enthusiastically accepted new responsibilities. Now what? Well, presumably you're not sitting around with hours of slack waiting for something to do. You already have your hands full. And the solution should never be to work more hours, at least not in the long term. That's unsustainable. When your workload increases, you need to evaluate your existing responsibilities and determine which of them can be handled by others. And I want to add a word of caution here. Many professionals struggle with the idea of delegation because they see it as something negative, like an admission of failure or an inability to handle their workload. Or they fear being considered lazy because they push work off onto others. And this couldn't be further from the truth. Effective delegation and prioritization are an essential leadership skill. It's the whole reason organizations are precisely that, organized. Otherwise, we'd just be solo operators working in our own bubbles and achieving very little by comparison. This doesn't mean you bluntly push work you don't feel like doing onto your direct reports. You must keep your core or high-stakes responsibilities and strategically redistribute some of your lower priority ones. That way you can free up some additional capacity to focus on the new high-impact task. You're not going to delegate that one, because keep in mind that a new responsibility is automatically a high priority, even if it seems small compared to your other work. Why? Well, first of all, because it initially reached your level within the organization, not someplace further down. So it probably carries a certain complexity or requires some degree of authority. And secondly, because on top of that, it's also new, meaning that it hasn't yet been fully understood. By extension of this principle, any task you delegate to your directs increases in its complexity and importance relevant to them. This is a task that was, up until now, being handled by someone of your level within the organization, presumably because it required that level of expertise or responsibility. You are now moving it down a level, which makes it a significant challenge for the direct to whom it has been assigned. Furthermore, what had by now become routine for you is going to be brand new for your direct. So that lower stakes task that you have just assigned to your direct, to them is just as high stakes as the new one you yourself have just received. So imagine how impossible life would be for your direct had you just passed down that new responsibility rather than taking the time to reassess your workload and redistribute accordingly. And this requires knowing your team well. You must understand who can handle the increased responsibility and then delegate thoughtfully. Now, as we talk about these things, we don't really pay attention to the specific vocabulary we use and what a particular word might imply. It's a matter of convenience. We could use the word task or responsibility, job, work, or any one of a dozen other words that, within a general context, we understand to refer to the things we do as part of our role. But just for a moment, let me make a slight pedantic distinction here between the idea of a task and that of being responsible for that task. Because delegation isn't meant to just hand off activities. You need to assign ownership as well. Your direct has to take over responsibility, while your obligation is to support and coach them as needed. This makes delegation a powerful development tool. Giving team members increased responsibility promotes their growth and prepares them for future roles. Every time you delegate a challenging task, you're creating a learning opportunity for them. And when that delegated work succeeds, make sure to give them all the credit. A good way to think about it is that success should also be delegated with the task. However, if things go wrong, that's still yours to own because as the delegator, you still retain ultimate accountability. Over time, this strengthens your team, and in fact, sometimes you might even want to consider delegating some of your lesser tasks just for this reason. Now let's address a common but flawed approach. Some people delegate some of their tasks just so they can create some slack in their workload just in case something unexpected comes up. Now this might sound prudent, but it's actually extremely inefficient. That buffer rarely stays empty for long and often ends up filled with unimportant, low-priority tasks. Or you'll just end up taking a little bit longer to do everything else. There's also a huge opportunity cost. When you push your limits, you grow. Your capacity is like a muscle that strengthens with regular challenges. Without that stretch, you don't develop your abilities and you miss out on the opportunity to get better and achieve more over time. So instead of trying to build in slack, focus on optimizing your productivity and stretching your capacity. This builds managerial muscle and is economically more productive. Don't expect others to prioritize your work for you. That's your responsibility. Even if you have a boss or multiple stakeholders making demands, it's your job to assess and reprioritize your workload. Build your own system to evaluate impact and effort and make intentional trade-offs. Then when priorities shift, be transparent with your stakeholders, which includes your directs. Because taking ownership doesn't require you to do everything. Quite the opposite. You get to make conscious decisions about what gets done, what gets delegated, and what gets dropped. As I've alluded to a couple of times already, capacity isn't static. Your ability to handle an increasing complexity and volume of work will grow over time. And it's the same for your team. So when you're feeling overwhelmed, resist that natural impulse to say no. Instead, look at what can be reshaped, simplified, or even shared. Give yourself and your team the opportunity to adapt rather than assuming rigid limits. If your team members become overloaded, you must coach and show them how to reorganize by making conscious trade-offs based on priorities and to delegate if need be. If they have no one to push work down to, then empower them to drop the least important tasks. And it's not unrealistic for a team to double their output on priority tasks by eliminating low-value work and streamlining processes, and by always challenging assumptions about how things are normally done around here. One last principle, and this might seem soft compared to the others, but it's incredibly powerful. How you show up matters. Your attitude is contagious. When you tackle increasing responsibilities with enthusiasm rather than complaint, you set a positive tone that affects not just your own work output, but that of your entire team. This doesn't mean faking excitement about tedious tasks, it means finding value in the challenge itself. Be happy about the opportunity to demonstrate how to solve problems. By approaching new work with energy and curiosity and resourcefulness, you get to build your own credibility and set a positive example for your team. That's leadership. So what have we really learned about handling increasing workloads? When those new responsibilities come your way, and they will, take them on with enthusiasm. Don't resist or push back. See them as the growth opportunities they are. Then reevaluate your entire workload. Which tasks are no longer the best use of your time or expertise? And what can you change about the way you're currently doing things? Is there anything you can delegate? And remember, that doesn't mean those tasks aren't important, they're just the least important ones. And be mindful that what might seem like a minor task to you will represent a significant responsibility to your directs. Support them properly and give them the context, resources, and the coaching that they need to succeed. As work gets pushed down through an organization, eventually someone won't have anyone to delegate to. At that point, some tasks simply won't get done. Multiple smaller tasks are dropped at the lower levels of the hierarchy in favor of taking on new, more significant responsibilities at higher levels. Because the answer is rarely to hire more people. You should be making better use of the talent and capacity you already have. This makes sure that the most impactful work gets done, and that's how organizations become more effective and efficient over time. The truly exceptional professional doesn't avoid additional responsibility, but welcomes it as an opportunity to increase their impact. And if you want more actionable advice for balancing personal growth with business success, click on the playlist link in the description below and consider subscribing to this channel. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you next time.